Hello everyone, it is Heather. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. I am making this video to answer a question I have received from a number of people. This question came up because back in, I think it was March, I made this video where I made some announcements, and one of those was that my son Andrew was moving to New England to attend law school, which he is now there. And if you saw our latest trip series, we went out there and visited him in August with the intention, kind of the second part of that announcement was that we were going to relocate to that part of the country as well. If you watch that video series, you know that that trip didn't go as we hoped. And we're having definite second thoughts about relocating to New England. And so several people have asked me recently, are you still planning to move east? Are you still planning to move at all? And so in this video, I want to answer that question. Okay, so before I answer that question, let me take a moment to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, especially since moving is still definitely a strong possibility in the near future. I don't want you to miss any of our updates on what's going on with us or any of our future travels. So be sure that you subscribe and be sure to click the notification bell because then you'll get notified of each new video that I put out on YouTube. Okay, here's the situation. We have lived in this house, which is an 1880 Victorian in a historic, very lovely neighborhood in the city where we live in Western Wisconsin, for almost 20 years. My then husband and I bought this house in 2003. At the time, we had only been married exactly a year. I already had Andrew. I was a single mom to Andrew when I met my husband, and Andrew was 6, I think, at the time. And then I was pregnant with Megan when we moved into this house. It was actually kind of funny because I didn't know I was pregnant with Megan when we bought the house. I found out I was pregnant with Megan between the time we made the offer on the house and when we closed. So that was kind of an exciting bonus to moving. And we had a new puppy at the time we moved into this house. We had our German Shepherd puppy, Shannon, who subsequently passed away in 2013. Okay, so we've lived in this house a long time. This was basically where Andrew grew up. He doesn't really have any memories of the places we lived before that. And this is the only place that Megan and Ben have ever lived. I've lived in this house for almost as long as I lived in my dad's house where he still lives, which is here in town with us just a little ways away. He still lives there. They bought that house when I was a baby, and I'm 49 now, so he's lived in that house for 49 years, and I lived there for 21 of those years. So he's lived there for 28 years by himself. And I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be in this big old house by myself. That's a very big factor for me. Even prior to that, Ben and I don't really want to be in this house, just the two of us. It's just too much house for two people. It's a big old house and it requires a lot of care and maintenance. There's some things we really love. We absolutely love the location of where we live. We love this particular spot in this neighborhood, in this city. We really, really like where our house is located. And we've kind of joked, we wish we could just tear down this house and have a nice new, like, modern condo or something in this exact same spot. It wouldn't fit with the neighborhood, but that's what we wish we could do. We love the location of where we live. We love that it's a small town and we love the feel of it. We love some things about our town. We love the walkability. We have some lovely parks. We love our public library. We love our movie theater. We really like where we live to some extent, okay, for those things. And we really like all the space we have in this house. And we really like the historic beauty of this house. There's some really beautiful features in this house. Okay, so those things we all like. But there are more things that we don't like. And there's some big reasons that we're really pushed to move very soon. Okay, the first motivation for moving is that the house itself is too much for me. When I bought the house, like I said, I was married. My husband was a pretty handy guy. He could fix things and deal with service people coming in and out of the house and things like that. In the time that we've owned this house and, in almost 20 years of owning this house, we've replaced just about everything. We've replaced 2 different things with the roof, the entire main roof, another part of the roof. We've replaced every window in the house. We've replaced toilets. We've replaced the water heater. We've replaced every appliance, the dishwasher 3 times. We've replaced, just tons of stuff in the house. I've dealt with electrical, plumbing, pests of all kinds. I've dealt with so many issues with this house. And the thing with owning a home, and especially a historic home, is that never ends. And that stuff is very expensive. And even though the mortgage for this house, my mortgage for this house is $700. And that includes my escrow, which is my property taxes and my homeowner's insurance. It's a steal. It's great. However, whenever something goes wrong, which happens constantly, I literally can't go even a week in this house without something going wrong. Something breaks, something stops working, some issue comes up. It's constant. And I have several impending, very expensive things coming up. They're going to be redoing the street in front of our house. They redid the street on the side. We're on a corner. They redid the street on the side in 2015, and I'm still paying for that. And at the time, I had them replace my driveway too, which I had to pay for right away. But I'm still paying on my tax bill for that street. They're going to be redoing this street in the front of the house, which is going to involve having to relocate and replace my sewer and water lines, which currently run under my next door neighbor's property. The sewer line is the old, like clay. And so I have to have Roto-Rooter come all the time and deal with that. And so that's all going to have to be replaced. And that's tens of thousands of dollars. And I can't afford that. The roof needs to be replaced again. And I can't afford that. If any of my appliances die, please don't die. I can't afford to replace those. I don't have the money sitting here to fix or replace anything in this house. There are many, many things in this house that we just deal with because I don't have the money to fix them. I really need to have a plumber come. I have several little annoying plumbing issues right now. The faucet in our upstairs bathroom sink has been dripping for months. Yeah, the right side of our kitchen sink won't drain. We have no idea why. They literally connect to each other under the sink and the other side drains fine. We have no idea what's going on there. We have a hole in our bathroom ceiling that's been there for 5 years. Our beautifully remodeled bathroom that we had to completely redo after the upstairs shower had a leak and the entire bathroom ceiling collapsed into the bathroom. And we had to replace and redo the entire bathroom. And then 1 year later, we got a spot on the ceiling, which I was sure was a leak, and so was the plumber. And so we cut a hole in my ceiling, and it turned out there was no leak. And there's been a hole in my ceiling ever since because I haven't had the time or the money to find a drywall person to come and redo the ceiling again. It's just, and there's lots more. Our garage has no electricity anymore because the electrical wire under the patio from the house to the garage that gave the garage electricity broke, or the chipmunks chewed through it. I'm not sure which. It's just endless. There's just problems like this constantly. And I'm not even scratching the surface of the stuff I deal with this house. So that stuff is so stressful. That has been literally my biggest source of stress since my husband left, like 10 years ago. I have been dealing with all of that for a very long time, and it causes me so much stress, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. I do not like owning a house. I do not like it at all. I mean, there's some things I like about owning a house, like you can decorate it the way you want and things like that, and you have privacy, but with all of the things that you have to deal with and all the responsibility of owning a house, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I would never have bought this house if I thought I was going to be dealing with all of this by myself. If I could go back in time, I wish I would have sold the house when we got divorced. But my kids were very little then, and I didn't want to, it was just not very practical for me to be relocating them and trying to find something by myself. I didn't have a job then either. So it's just been kind of a big deal. So the house itself is a real problem for me. And also, since I fell and fractured both my ankles and injured my ankle, which my right one still has not recovered, which I've talked about in this series of videos, the fact that this house has so many stairs and steps has been really problematic for me. And it's just not a practical house even for me to be aging in. So as I get older, I wouldn't want to be in a house like this because it's very impractical for someone as they're getting older. So we really need to sell the house and we really need to move. And what I want is I want to rent again, and I want to rent someplace new and modern and the opposite of this. I really want to find someplace where I'm going to have a good landlord or a really good property management company that's going to take care of everything for me. And I especially don't want any outside yard work or outside stuff. I don't even care if I have an outdoor space. I don't care about that at all. I can go out and go for a walk. I don't need to have a patio or a balcony or a deck or anything like that. I mean, it might be nice, but I don't need it. Right now, we have an enormous yard and we have a whole bunch of trees. Trees is another thing I've had to deal with. I have to have arborists and tree guys come all the time, and I have a lawn service. And my poor dad, who is almost 80, mows my lawn for me because I literally physically can't start a lawnmower. And Ben's allergic to grass. So there you go. And he's just not going to be able to do that anymore. And we just need something different. This home no longer works for our needs. So we really need to get out of this home. Now, selling the house is a tricky thing because in 20 years, obviously I have some decent equity built up in the house. I'm a little worried about how much I'm going to be able to get selling it because it currently has so many problems that I can't afford to fix. So it's going to have to be like an as-is sale. And my other problem is I really don't want people coming in here. Because of the pandemic and because of our high risk, I don't want people coming into the house. So that's why I haven't, it has, even besides not being able to afford the repairs, I don't want people coming into the house right now. And I don't really want people coming into the house to look at it. I don't even want a realtor in here. I don't want to deal with any of that. I want to be able to move and then deal with the house selling it later. And that's also not very financially practical. So that's a challenge for us. And we also don't plan on taking any of the stuff in this house. All the furniture in this house is at least 20 years old, if not older. There's some stuff in this house I've had since I had my first apartment when I was 21 years old. The dishes are from my first apartment when I was 21 years old. So there's almost nothing in this house that we want to take with us. But we realized too, we can't really there's not really anything we can sell or get rid of before we move, because right now we're using all of it. We're using all of it here, but we would want to replace everything for someplace new. So that's a challenge. With selling the house, I need the money from the house for two different things. Here's the thing. It's time for Megan to go to college. Megan should be going to college next fall. Now, my son went to an extremely expensive private university. However, he got more financial aid because of our family's financial situation. He got more in financial aid in grant, just gave him money from his school and from the government than his friends that went to public universities got in their whole 4 years. And he also had free room and board for 3 of the years he was in college because he worked as an RA. But there was still a bill of like $1,000 to $1,500 a month for the whole 4 years he was in college. And the only reason he was able to go was because my mom paid for that. My mom can't do that for Megan because she's helping us out because I haven't worked in forever. We've done the FAFSA and we know what Megan's going to get from the federal government. I really don't want Megan to take out loans. I really discouraged my kids from taking loans because I am still paying my student loans and actually my ex-husband's student loans. That's a whole nother story. My mom is still paying student loans. So I don't want my kids to be saddled with student loans and dealing with that for the rest of their lives like we are. And so I really have discouraged my kids from taking student loans. And unfortunately, that's like one of the only things the federal government will offer you. They'll get a Pell Grant. And then if they go to small private universities, those universities tend to give much more grant money to lower income students like my kids than big public universities do. But there's probably still going to be something left over. So if I can sell the house for what houses are going for in our neighborhood right now, I would have enough money to pay for Megan for college, for the rest, most likely. But if I can't get some kind of income to increase our income before we move to afford rent, because rent is going to be probably double, if not triple, what we're paying now for this house, I'm not going to be able to rent a place. Nobody's going to approve me. The other thought we had was to take the money we get from selling the house and say, hey, can we move in here? We'll pay 12 months of rent in advance. But I don't think I can do both. I don't think I'll have enough money to pay for that, for a place for us to live, and pay for college for Megan. I've talked about this, and this brings me to the second reason we want to move. I have been trying to get a job around here, a full-time job, for 14 years. I have applied for literally thousands of jobs, and I apparently am not alone in this in America. I am reading more and more articles all the time about people in my situation, either older people like over 40 or anybody who has any kind of gap on their resume at all. You know, I had kids. I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. I've had a gap now since the pandemic started because it wasn't safe for me to teach, and I couldn't teach because my ankles were broken. So I mean, there's gaps on my resume, and apparently the artificial intelligence that weeds through resume, you just weed it out right away. I literally send out hundreds of resumes and apply for hundreds of jobs and hear nothing. And the interviews I've had a decent number of interviews in the past 20 years or whatever, and I think they go well, and I never get the job. I don't know why. That's really frustrating. And part of me wonders if we moved to a different part of the country, if that would improve. Unfortunately, with what I'm reading and hearing about in the economy, I kind of have come to the conclusion that that's probably not the case. That I'm probably not going to have any more luck with finding a job in another part of the country than I have here. But that was one of the original reasons that we were motivated to move. Okay, the third reason we're motivated to move is because of the school district here. We were already having some issues, quite a few issues, with the schools here before the pandemic started. Let me just say that from, I would say like 7-8 years ago maybe, we loved our school district. We absolutely loved our school district. Education was a really big thing in Wisconsin, and our school district was one of the top ones, and we absolutely loved it, and we were very happy there. At the time Andrew graduated, which is 7 years ago now, we loved our high school. That changed. Since my son Andrew graduated in the last 7 or 8 years, things have not been the same as they used to be. I blame two things. I blame changes in administration, and I blame parents who are younger than me of a lot of the kids in the schools these days. Kids have changed, and not for the better. And obviously I don't mean everybody, but one of the main reasons I didn't want to teach anymore is because of that. And ask almost any teacher and they will tell you, they will back me up on this. Okay, the attitude and the lack of respect and the behavior of kids is very different than it was before. And I mean, I'm old enough. I started teaching in 1999. So I actually taught these kids' parents. I had them as students. So it's just very different. And there are some very specific issues, without identifying what school it is, with our school that I am not happy about. And we've talked about this in videos before. Megan was very unhappy in the schools before the pandemic, which was why it was such a relief to her and to Ben even at the time, because of issues with like social stuff and bullying and all sorts of things in the school that were not healthy or good for them. And so for them to get out of that environment and be able to do school at home this last while has been really good for them, especially Megan. Now, Ben is very anxious to get back to school, and I really want Ben to be able to go to school in person. But another problem I have with our school district here is I am not happy at all with how they're handling the pandemic. Last year was okay. They required masks the whole year through, but pictures I saw and media I saw, releases from the schools and stuff, they weren't enforcing it very well. And they still had so many cases that they had to close school from November, December, and January, and everybody was virtual. And I mean, it wasn't good. This year, they started out with no masks, and they lasted 13 days, 13 school days, and they realized very quickly that they had to make masks mandatory again. And they still have skyrocketing cases. The public health department has traced at least 3 community outbreaks to the schools, and we get emails every single day telling us about more cases at the schools. I just don't have any confidence in how they're handling the pandemic. And the other thing is now, the way that they're dealing with quarantining close contacts in the schools is in direct defiance of the advice of the State Department of Public Health, the CDC, and the county health department. And the county health department was so upset with them, and there's another school district near us that's doing it too, that they went on record and made like a public announcement and put it in the news and everything that they disagreed with what the schools were doing with quarantining. They're basically making quarantining optional. So I have zero confidence in this school district anymore. Number one, to keep my kids safe. Not only in the pandemic, but to keep them physically and emotionally and mentally safe in the school environment. I feel that the environment here in the schools, at least at the middle and high school, are quite toxic. And I don't feel comfortable sending Ben back to these schools. And so that's a big motivator for us to want to move. And trying to find a place that isn't like that, I don't even know where to start. And then the other thing that kind of goes along with that is we are in a fairly rural area, and there's kind of a dividing line in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a swing state, and some years it votes red and some years it votes blue. And basically like the southern half of the state that's more urban, Madison, Milwaukee, tends to be more blue. And the northern half tends to be more red. And we're kind of right on the line. The attitude of people in our community with the pandemic, I'm very unhappy with. And I'm very unhappy with the lack of seriousness that people around here have taken the pandemic. Again, not everyone. A lot of people that I know take it just as seriously as I do, but we're definitely in the minority here. And I don't like that. I would really like to move to a state that has been very serious about the pandemic from the get-go. And so that really kind of leaves me with the Northeast, Illinois maybe, but I don't really want to move to Illinois. No offense to Illinois, and then the West Coast. And so that's why we've been looking at those places. But we've always lived here and we like it here. And so we're really kind of torn because there's things about where we live that we really, really do like and we really enjoy. Those are kind of the push factors that are pushing us to move. They're very serious, important things. And we really do want to move as soon as possible. Now, right now, I'm doing school with Ben every day. He's doing virtual school, but I sit with him and do it with him every day to make sure that he's engaged and understanding and all of that. Because otherwise he just whizzes through it really fast and it's just not engaging for him. That's why he wants to be back in school. He misses the interaction with his teachers. And I am a teacher, and so I'm here, and so I'm teaching him the material as he's, we're going through it. And because of that, I don't have time to have a job right now. Even if I could get a job, I don't have time for a job. So I don't know how to resolve this. I mean, I literally feel like I've exhausted every avenue where we live for getting work, other than something that I physically can't do right now, like working in a fast food restaurant or Walmart or something, which I physically can't do because of my ankle, and also would not be enough money for what I need for the rent that we need. So that's kind of where we're at. Yes, we do want to move, and yes, we do plan to move, but we can't figure out how to make that happen. And it's very challenging, and it's a very big stress for us right now. It's something we think about and talk about all the time. And we're really torn about what to do. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. There are no rentals in the town where we live, 3 bedrooms, which is what we would need, that we like. There's a very limited number of rentals in this community, and the variety of type of rental here is very limited and small. And so we can't find anything here that we would want to live in. So that's a problem too. So that's kind of the issues that we're dealing with. I hope that helps you to understand where we're at with moving. I really can't tell you anything else. I can't figure out what the next step is. We're really kind of stuck. We still have some other areas we are interested in the country that we'd like to look at. I've been thinking about New York State, the upper New England states like Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. We've also considered the West Coast, but we would need money to go visit those places. Because one thing I've discovered in 2 ways, when you take your kids to visit colleges that they're considering, I've done that with both my older kids, you have to take them to visit. They really can't get a good sense of whether they want to go there or not unless they visit. And visit when school is in session so they can see what it's like when there's students walking around and doing things. Because Andrew definitely, and Megan, got a very distinct, yes, I really like this place, or no, I don't want to go here, when they visited. And Andrew's college where he went turned out to be a perfect fit for him, and he loved it there. Moving is kind of the same thing. If we're going to move to a completely new place, we need to see it first. We need to go there and we need to experience it first, and we need to feel what it's like and see what it has and things like that. And we've done that a little bit, and we didn't like it more. There were maybe 1 or 2 places that we were like, maybe this would be okay, but nothing that we're like, oh, I love it here or anything like that. We haven't found that yet. And so we really would need to go visit more places. We have the time. We have the flexibility in our schedule because the kids are doing school at home. We could do it. The problem is money. We don't have the money to go traipsing off all over the country looking at all sorts of places. I wish we did. I wish we could do that. That would probably make this easier. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any upcoming updates on our moving journey. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, everyone. Have a safe day and safe travels.